everyone. Welcome to a follow-up to the New Brunswick Public Service Pension Plan annual information meeting from this year. We had so many questions that we wanted to take some time to answer those that we didn't get to during the meeting live. So joining me right now is Sean Hewitt, the President and CEO of Vestcor. He was one of the presenters at this year's annual information meeting, and he's going to answer a few of the questions you submitted that, again, we didn't get a chance to get to. Hi, Sean.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. I'll get right into it if that's okay with you. The first question we have is, all of the data starts when Vestcor started, though the New Brunswick Public Service Pension Plan existed before Vestcor. Could we see a presentation that accounts for the investment portfolio's performance prior to Vestcor's management?
Perfect. Yes, excellent question. And we do have a slide that we put together that speaks to it. Vestcor has actually been involved with the Public Service Pension Plan for nearly 30 years. So in predecessor organizations, the New Brunswick Investment Management Corporation began investing on behalf of the Public Service Pension Plan in 1996. So we have shown the full track record, if you will, going back since 1996, since the inception of the mandate. And what it shows is that returns have been robust at about 6.8%, which compares favorably relative to the benchmark return of 6.4%. Now, importantly, the return over this period of time has exceeded that of the target discount rate, which has enabled the plan to maintain its funded position and improve its funded position over time to the point where we sit today, which is in surplus. So hopefully that answers the member's question, and let me know if you have any others.
Thanks, Sean. That's great. And also, just to add to that, this information is available in all of the semi-annual updates that are provided by our investment team through the newsletters to the members. So if any members would like to see these returns over time, the newsletters are posted to the plan's website. You can go back and get year-end or mid-year information in all the newsletters at NBPSPP.ca. Thank you, Sean. I have a second question for you. Hi there, first time engaging in this kind of session. Do the Vestcor public resources that Sean mentioned include information on where specifically funding is coming from? Something like an investment portfolio breakdown of where money is coming.
Excellent. Yes. So the monies that are contributed to the plan are split by member contributions, which comes right off of the paycheck, and employer contributions that comes from the employer. So that's all of the funds that go into the plan. I think the member is probably more interested in a breakdown of the investment returns within the investment portfolio, which we are showing here. This is over the 1-year period ending 2023. And it shows the returns by each asset class, the benchmark for each of those asset classes, and then the net value added with respect to each one of those investment types. Now, what it shows is that in 2023, there was some underperformance, and the figure that we're showing there is 1.19%. Most of that underperformance relates in part due to private equity over the period. But importantly, with things like private equity and other private market investments, such as real estate, a 1-year period is a relatively short time frame to evaluate true performance. And so in the annual report, we focus on longer term performance relative to benchmark, and we continue to monitor those investments very, very closely.
Sean, and that's such an important point. It's true. Longevity is what's important in these pension plans, that sustainability. So long-term return is very important. And of course, as I mentioned with the last question, if any members are curious about how this has changed over time, this information is published every year in the plan's annual reports, and all previous reports are available on the plan's website as well. And I have a third and final question for you today. Vestcor investments are all done through Vestcor funds or NBIMC funds. I thought it would be interesting to look at some of these to see what they hold, but I was not able to. Where can I find this information? And if it's not available, then why not? And a follow-up to that, publishing a summary isn't enough, since we need to know which exact funds, indices, our money have been invested in. Can you provide this information?
An excellent question. In our Vestcor annual report, we do have a fair amount of disclosure on the total suite of investment funds that Vestcor invests in. It's a challenge to show the portfolio on a position level, given the size of the portfolio, which in aggregate is well over 20 billion. We'll take that question under advisement and consider ways that we can show a little bit more granular information in our next annual reporting cycle that still makes it understandable from a total portfolio perspective. So I appreciate the question, and we'll think about how to address the issue that the member has raised in future communications.
Thank you so much. And if anyone's curious to see those annual reports, we have a Vestcor specific website that has that information. So it includes, of course, NBPSPP, but also all of our other clients. And those are available at vestcor.org/annual reports. They're updated annually, so you can find that information there. Thank you so much, Sean. That was it for follow-up questions today from you. Really appreciate your time. And if any members have any further questions, certainly email us, info@vestcor.org. We're always happy to answer those questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Liz.
Joining us now is Kent Fries, the manager of the member services team with Vestcor. Kent was also present during the annual information meeting and did answer a question there, but thank you for joining us again, Kent, to help us answer the questions we weren't able to get to during that meeting. I have a few questions here for you today. Our first is, thank you for providing this information session. I am new to GNB and the pension plan. What are the tools and resources available to improve my understanding of how the NBPSPP contributes to my overall retirement plan?
Thank you for the question. So yeah, great question. There's a lot of different tools that you have access to better understand your pension. There's newsletters that get sent out twice a year. So there's a newsletter in the spring and the fall that would be sent out to all participants. We also have videos on our website or on your plan's website that you can have access at nbpspp.ca. There's videos there. There's also access to the your plan booklet, governing documents, etc. Another thing you will receive is a statement on an annual basis. So once a year, you'll receive a statement, usually around April or May, around the springtime, which would show your contributions for the year and the interest applied to that. One of the other things that is good with the statement, it does give you a snapshot of where your pension is in time at the end of that statement period. So it would show you what you have accumulated and your pension that you accumulated till then as a snapshot. But you can also use the information on page 2 of your statement and go online and use the online calculator to help project service and get different information there as well.
Thank you, Kent. That's super helpful. And of course, the member services team is available Monday to Friday, 8:15 to 4:30 to answer questions. The wonderful team that you lead. So that's another option as well. Any additional questions, the team's always available to answer those. Second question for you. Where can I find out what amount my pension will be at and the age I can retire without penalty? You sort of already answered part of that, but I'll let you take it away.
Sure, great question, and thank you for mentioning the member services team. So we are available, like you said, 8:15 to 4:30, Monday to Friday. But yeah, if sometimes you're in a hurry and just want to send a quick question, you can always send a question to info@vestcor.org. That goes to our general email box, and then it gets sent to the appropriate analyst to respond. So thank you for mentioning that. As far as your knowing when your pension is unreduced and when you can have it, basically for NBPSPP, you would get an unreduced pension at age 65. So any time prior to that, there are reductions, and it would depend if you have service with pre-conversion and post-conversion. So the plan did convert on January 1st, 2014. So if you had pre-conversion service, there are different penalties, and that is post-conversion service. All that information is in the booklet. But if you're not sure, like Liz says, you can reach out to our team and we can go over that. But to have an unreduced pension, it would be age 65 for your particular pension plan.
You can't. And as part of that question as well was what amount my pension will be. And as you've said, the statement is a perfect tool for that because you can use the information from that, put it in the pension calculator, and get an estimate of what the future pension does look like. Finally, why do we lose money off our pension when our CPP kicks in? If we pay into both plans, shouldn't we get the benefit of collecting from both plans?
Great question. So you don't lose money. So the idea is that if you retire prior to age 65, which is what we call the normal retirement date, your pension is higher for those years to help, some people will call it bridging or integration. It comes and help, bridge those years to get a higher pension income when at 65 you can withdraw an unreduced CPP. So your plan is integrated with CPP in that manner. Having said that, even if you start drawing CPP early, so let's say age 60 is the earliest you can draw a CPP, you'll still get that higher pension amount until age 65. So it's really the month after your 65th birthday, your pension does reduce.
Thank you, Ken. And yeah, that's such a misconception. It's a great addition to a pension for those who retire early, but certainly not meant to be seen as a penalty. Thank you, Kent. Thank you for your time. That was it for our questions today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so up next we have Yves Plourde, partner and actuary with TELUS Health. So Yves was part of the annual information meeting, providing an update on the actuarial evaluation for the plan. And Yves, thank you for joining us today to answer a couple of the questions we weren't able to get to when we did the meeting live.
My pleasure.
So I'll start with the first question. With regards to the traffic light announcement alerts, if World War III was to happen and the markets plummeted, would our monthly pension amounts be affected or just the COLA? Just wondering if we are guaranteed our monthly payment.
Well, that's a very good question. So if there was a serious downturn, and let's call it World War III, first of all, what would happen is, as you mentioned, COLA would slowly stop until such time as it completely ceases. And then after that, there are provisions for contributions to increase on both sides, from the members and from the employer. After that, if that's not enough to shore up the pension plan, then there are some reductions to early retirement provisions of the plan that will not affect a member's pension or a retiree pension. But if all of those things are not sufficient to bring back the pension plan above 100%, then there will be a reduction to pensioners' pension. So that is a feature of the shared risk model. The pension itself is not completely guaranteed. However, we are trying to keep that probability to the very strict minimum. In fact, the trustees are looking at those possibilities every year. And given the funded status of the plan right now, it would require a scenario that basically only happened once over the last 100 years when you look backwards as the various scenarios that have happened in the financial markets. And only once in the last 100 years have we seen a scenario where we would have to reduce your pensions, and that's the Great Depression. And so if we have returns similar to the returns that we achieved during the Great Depression, then there is a possibility that pensions could be reduced under the plan. But, during World War II, we looked at that one as well. Pensions would not have been reduced. So it really depends on how deep a recession and the impact that would have.
Thank you, Yves. Much appreciated. And the next question is, it was mentioned that employer-employee contributions will even out. How will this affect our pension? And second question on the subject, similar topic, is it true that the employer contribution rates are set to decrease? And again, will this affect the plan?
Thanks for the question. There is actually, yes, a provision that as of January 1st, 2029, contributions from both the members and the employer under the pension plan will be equally shared. Currently, the employer is paying more than the members in the pension plan, and so employers are paying 11.25% of payroll, whereas the members on average are paying 8.25% of payroll. There's a certain percentage below the YMP and other percentage above, but on average, when you take that all together, employees are paying about 8.25% of payroll to the pension plan. And so on January 1st, 2029, those two rates will be equal. So members will increase to about 9.75%, and the employer will reduce to 9.75%. So it's true, employer contributions will reduce, member contribution will increase, such that both contribution rates will become equal effective January 1st, 2029. And in terms of the impact on the pension plan, it will have no impact on the pension plan because in total, the pension plan will continue to receive exactly the same amount of contributions. Great.
Thank you so much, Eve. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you for answering these questions.
All right, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Joining us now is Kathy Greenbank, the chair of the Board of Trustees of the New Brunswick Public Service Pension Plan. Kathy was part of the annual information meeting as our host. I know you shared some great information there, and as we've said, we didn't have time to answer all the questions during the Q&A, so a couple that we wanted to ask you today. Thank you so much for joining us, Kathy. So the first question is, what is the ultimate target for the funded ratio?
Okay. For the NBPSPP, the open group funded ratio is what we look to determine if the plan has capacity to fund cost of living increases or COLA for its members. We would consider an open group funded ratio above 120% to be the fund's goal. Let me tell you why. At our annual information meeting, a stoplight system was introduced where plan members would be able to see at a glance the status of the open group funded ratio. As you can see here, an open group funded ratio under 105% says red light, meaning there's no ability to provide COLA, and a yellow light status over 105 and less than 120% indicates a portion of COLA may be able to be awarded based on formulas outlined in the plan's funding policy. As you may recall, in the last 2 years previous to this one, inflation reached unprecedented levels in the history of the NBPSPP, and although our ratios were solid, our funding formulas allowed us to provide slightly less than 100% of COLA, 94 and 95% respectively. The plan has a provision that when the funding status indicator light is green, we have the ability to catch up any missed COLA depending once again upon the formulas in the funding policy. This was exactly what took place last year. A green light shows an open group funded ratio over 120%, and is an indicator the plan is in a solid financial position and full COLA can be granted. Our last actuarial evaluation as of January 1st, 2024, had this very ratio coming in at 129.4%, not only allowing full COLA adjustments, but also enough to catch up on the past 2 years. You can see why our green light target of 120% or higher is important for our plan. Keep your eye on the newsletters and our website to see how our indicators are tracking using this new stoplight system. To learn more about how the ratio is calculated, please take a look at the plan's annual report and actuarial valuation report, both posted annually on the plan's website, NBPSPP.ca.
Thank you, Kathy. That explains it so well. Thank you. Second question for you today. Given the current overfunded status of the pension fund, has the board considered reducing the early retirement penalty percentage or the early retirement age?
I would like to address this question with a bit of background regarding the early retirement benefit available for plan members. While members may view the plan's early retirement provisions as a penalty or restriction to early retirement, the opposite is true. It is a valued benefit of our plan. It provides a bridge to allow an earlier retirement than the normal retirement age of 65. If individual members start a pension early, their pension payments are expected to be paid over a longer period of time. The reduction factors are in place to reflect this. This was part of the overall design of the plan, developed through consultations with the sponsoring parties and the actuaries during the plan's inception in 2014. The plan provisions and design are in place to ensure the plan is able to meet the required risk management tests, and funding ratio levels at conversion as per the New Brunswick Pension Benefits Act. This is how we have a plan that is sustainable and secure for all members. To get back to the original question, the plan's funding policy outlines what the board can and cannot do based on the funded status of the plan, and notes what the board can do if the plan is funded above certain levels. Changes to the early retirement reduction factors or the earliest permissible retirement age are not part of this. A fundamental change of that type would have to be made by the governing parties of the plan, the province, and the unions, and such a change would have a significant cost implication to the plan. What is part of the funding policy is if the plan's 15-year open group funded ratio exceeds 140%, the board can consider things such as a reduction in contributions, building a reserve for future indexing, cost of living, along with other items as they are listed in the policy. If the plan were to remain in a solid financial position after all of these items were considered, only then could the board recommend changes to the funding policy itself to the plan's governing parties, such as reviewing the 5% early retirement reduction. You can find a copy of the funding policy and other relevant governing documents on the plan's website, NBPSPP.ca, under Plan Governance.
Thank you so much, Kathy. That's a question that actually comes up quite a bit from time to time, so thank you for that important clarification. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time today.